Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Trevor Eakes. Welcome to OA Week 2021. I'm one of the Secretariat for the GOA-ON Secretariat. And today we're going to be doing a community discussion on OA data sharing. And we'll be talking about the GOA-ON Data Explorer and the SDG 14.3.1 portal. Before we begin, I'd just like to introduce you all to what GOA-ON is. First, GOA-ON, the OA Week is presented by 4 of our sponsoring organizations. First, we have GOA-ON, the Global Ocean Acidification Observing Network. Secondly, NOAA, the United States National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. Third, the IAEA OA-ICC, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and the Ocean Acidification International Coordination Center. And last but not least, the IOC-UNESCO, the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. For those of you who are new to GOA-ON, it is a collaborative international network designed to address 3 high-level goals. The first goal is to improve our understanding of global ocean acidification, or OA, conditions. The second goal is to improve our understanding of ecosystem response to ocean acidification. The third goal is to acquire and exchange data and knowledge necessary to optimize modeling for OA and its impacts. GOA-ON was established in 2012 with just a handful of members. Since then, GOA-ON has grown immensely. We now have over 900 members from 105 countries. You can join GOA-ON today by visiting GOA-ON.org. GOA-ON also consists of 8 regional hubs, which span across continents and oceanographic regions. We'll be hearing from most of them throughout OA Week. GOA-ON is an active organization that offers numerous resources to its members. GOA-ON informs policy at the international level and is involved with the initiatives such as the Commonwealth Blue Charter and the Community of Ocean Action on Acidification. GOA-ON supports the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 14, known as Life Below Water. Specifically, GOA-ON helped develop the methodology for SDG Indicator 14.3.1, which we'll be talking about today, providing guidance on how to measure ocean acidity and how to report the collected information. The data collected informs local and regional governments and UN climate programs. GOA-ON also hosts a data portal, which provides access and visualization to OA data and data synthesis products that are collected from around the world and from a wide range of sources, including moorings, research cruises, and fixed time series. We welcome all scientists to submit their OA observations to the portal. It's quick, easy, and allows greater visibility for your work. And it's one of the topics we'll be discussing today as well. Additionally, GOA-ON offers members scientific mentorship, scholarships, and hands-on training through the peer-to-peer program. If you're interested in joining this program as a mentee or mentor, visit the peer-to-peer webpage and enter your information into the application form. GOA-ON's newest resource is a webinar series, which was established following last year's OA Week. We welcome your inputs on what topics you would like to hear about future GOA-ON webinars. If you have any ideas, or if you would like to contribute to the webinar series as a presenter, please send an email to secretariat@goa-on.org. Over the next 10 years, GOA-ON intends to go even further. GOA-ON has become involved recently with the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, which will run from 2021 to 2030. This Ocean Decade will provide a common framework to ensure that ocean science can fully support countries to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. GOA-ON is proud to announce that our proposal, known as OARS, Ocean Acidification Research for Sustainability, was recently endorsed as an official UN Decade program. The OARS program will build on GOA-ON's existing work to further develop OA science by enhancing capacity efforts, increasing observation of ocean chemistry changes, identifying the impacts on marine ecosystems, and providing decision makers with the necessary information for mitigating and adapting to OA. GOA-ON would also like to bring to attention the 5th International Symposium on the Ocean in a High CO2 World. This conference was initially scheduled for September 2020, and like many events over the last 18 months, this event was postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as I'm sure many of you are aware. The symposium is now scheduled for 2022 and will bring together researchers, decision makers, and other stakeholders to share cutting-edge ocean acidification science. We hope everyone listening today will visit the symposium website to learn more, and we invite you to stick around at the end of the webinar to see a promotional video from the symposium steering committee. So, without further ado, I'd like to get to this discussion, and we are going to be presenting two speakers today. Myself, who will be talking about the GOA-ON data portal, and Dr. Katherina Schoo from the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO, who will be talking about the SDG 14.3.1 portal. So now I'll pass it over to Dr. Schoo. Go ahead.
Thank you, Trevor. Just give me a short second to line up my presentation. So, here we go. Excellent. Welcome, everybody, to Ocean Acidification Week and to this community discussion on ocean acidification and the SDG indicator, which I'll be presenting on a little bit more. So to give you a bit of a background on what this SDG 14.3.1 actually is. So in 2015, the United Nations member states adopted the Agenda 2030 and a set of 17 goals to transform our world. One of these goals, SDG 14, Sustainable Development Goal 14, focuses on life below water. And within this SDG 14, there are several layers. So we have the goal itself, and then we have within SDG 14, 10 different targets and indicators under these targets, which are the measurable component of these targets. So for SDG 14, as you can see, there's 10 targets. And the one I will be talking about today is the one SDG 14.3, which aims to reduce ocean acidification. So as I said, under this target, we have an indicator, and this indicator calls for the average marine acidity measured at an agreed suite of representative sampling stations. The IOC-UNESCO is the custodian agency for this indicator, and the indicator methodology has been developed together with experts in the field of ocean acidification and many of the members of GOA-ON, which we're very grateful for. So this indicator is currently in tier 2, which means that it's conceptually clear, it has an established methodology, and standards are available, but the data is not regularly produced by countries. And this is something we hope to change with your help, and this is why we're showing you today what this indicator does. So the indicator is part, as I said, of this greater 2030 agenda and the Sustainable Development Goal, the target 14.3, and then we come to the indicator 14.3.1, which consists of this methodology. And under this methodology, all member states have accepted to report national data towards this indicator, which is then collected by IOC-UNESCO as the custodian agency. We then report back on these data to the UN Secretary General's progress report and the Sustainable Development Goals report, which feeds back into the 2030 agenda. So who contributes to SDG 14.3.1? As I said, all United Nations countries signed up for this agenda and accepted regular national reporting. And IOC follows 3 paths for data collection currently. We request data from IOC national representatives, from NODCs, that's the National Oceanographic Data Centers, ADUs, Associated Data Units, and individual scientists such as yourselves, because oftentimes we have found that the capacity for ocean data at the administrative level, so in these national agencies of different nations, is limited. So there might not be enough storage space available for what can be substantial data sets, and there might also not be the knowledge of this data being collected within the country. If NODCs exist, and these are supposed to be the main contributors, so ideally, IOC would receive the data directly from the National Oceanographic Data Centers, but often data and metadata collected by these national agencies is not quite sufficient, and it doesn't fulfill the same standards as the indicator requests. Another issue that we've come across quite a lot, and which I hope you will all be discussing with us today, is that many researchers submit data to other relevant databases already. So you might be submitting data to SOCAT or GLODAP or to any other national oceanographic data centers or other relevant ocean carbon databases. And the onus of then reformatting and resubmitting the data often falls on you. So there are things that we are working on to hope to make this better, but we'd really like to hear from you as well on how we can assist you with this. Then the reasons you should contribute is that contributions from scientists increase the use of the information, and they increase visibility and facilitate global and regional comparisons of ocean acidification. So knowing what happens at a global level and what happens within different ocean basins is crucially important. Furthermore, contributions from scientists allows the IOC to help increase communications with government agencies and representatives and data managers. So that might also benefit you as a researcher. The SDG indicator is not just a piece of paper. As I said, it has we have the indicator methodology, which contains explanations and definitions. Part of this whole methodology is also a data template and a metadata template with instructions. And the methodology, when I say it contains instructions, it also contains definitions and units. It tells you why it has been included as an indicator in this Agenda 2030 framework. There's guidelines on method computation. There's guidelines on how to sample, how often you need to sample, where you should sample. We have links to best practices, standard operating mechanisms, data sources. So it's a very comprehensive collection of guidelines on how to measure ocean acidification. And it also contains, to facilitate this collection of data, a 14.3.1 data portal, which looks like this. And I would just quickly like to draw your attention to the website here where you can find this. And if you'll forgive me, I will try and switch over to that website to run you through it for a second. Excuse me, I'll be right back. Whew. Here you go. So this is the SDG data portal. This is the landing page that you've just seen. And there's the map, which should usually show you, it's a bit slow today, there you go, it's showing up, which shows you where data has been collected. And it shows you, as you can see, the darker ones are the ones where we have more data or data from several cruises, longer years, longer time series. This page also includes a bit of a background. It contains links to the different agencies involved. It contains links where you can download the indicator methodology, the template, the data template, and the metadata instructions. Furthermore, at the very top here, there's an instruction tab, which gives you a sort of like guide on how to get started with this data set, with this whole data portal. FAQs, because we have in the first years received a fair few questions, and we hope that we have answered most of these here. One of them is, can I access and download other submitted data sets? And the answer is yes, you can actually. If you go onto the data tab up here, it'll take you to a list of all of those data sets that have been submitted, where we have been given permission to share. And it is searchable. So you can search either by title, if you know the title, by platform category. So you have a fixed ocean time series, repeat hydrography, Argo floats, gliders, all of these, or by country platform. So Australia, for example, has submitted several very comprehensive data sets. And we're currently also in the process of furthering this a bit more, of having a few more search categories. So we're hoping that in the future we will be able to search for pH, for example, and only look at data sets that contain that parameter. So all in all, this is a quick overview of the data portal, and I will go back very quickly to my presentation. So this data portal, the data that has been collected through this will be, as I said, then submitted by the IOC-UNESCO to several other agencies. It will be shared and it will be included in outcome documents such as the Sustainable Development Goals Report 2020, which you can see here. That's the section on the indicator that we submitted. We have some text on the background, on the importance, on some of the patterns that we've observed. And this is the data, this plot is based on the data that we collected in that first year. So you can see that your data will actually be shared at the highest levels of the United Nations, and it'll also go into several other reports, such as the WMO report, the World Meteorological Organization's report on the state of the global climate, which is also an annual publication, and it'll become widely available and hopefully influence those who make the decisions. But for sure, it will give your data a platform and increase its visibility. And with that, I will pass over to Trevor, who will introduce you to the GOA-ON Data Explorer. Trevor? Trevor, are you there?
Yeah. One moment, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, sorry about that.
I'm making you present.
Thank you so much.
You can take it over.
Okay, great, one moment. Okay, so now I'll share about the GOA-ON data portal. Hopefully some of you are already familiar with our OA data portal, and I'd like to discuss ways that we could grow the portal, as well as just refresh you on what the features are. And at the end of this, I'm going to have some questions. So I really hope that you're all listening and ready to write in, because I'm really looking for answers and getting feedback from all of you. So really appreciate your participation here, so we can make this a great community discussion. And we'll have more time after the presentation to dive deeper into the questions. Some of these questions are just going to be to kind of get you thinking about what are some ideas for the GOA-ON data portal and how you might be able to contribute. I'm also going to be showing the GOA-ON data portal as well, so you can just get a sense of how the portal looks in our survey. Perhaps you've never submitted an asset before or a platform, and this is a good way to see how that's done. Okay, so the GOA-ON data portal now, you can see in the screen behind, is a grayed out version of what the portal looks like. And we have quite a lot of assets now that are available for your exploration. There are over 700 assets, and we've integrated a SOCAT and GLODAP layer onto the data portal, which is a pretty cool feature and can maybe help give a sense of comparisons and interesting parts of the world of what kind of information is available for that. The biogeochemical Argo floats are also integrated into the portal. They're not live, but they do show where the assets have been and kind of give you a sense of where different floats that are recording biogeochemical information are. The metadata is what's available for these. These are not downloadable data within our portal itself, but there are links to that data where you can click on the link within our portal and it will take you to the corresponding site where you can look at the data. Not all of the data has these available links, but many of them do, and we have a filter that can show you which data has downloadable links. You can also download the metadata list, so you can have this for your own analysis, offline use, etc. And we have filters by region for data access. that can filter this a variety of ways, including by region, platform type, information collected, and more. So what kind of platforms are there? Well, pretty much anything you can imagine that could be collecting data, including some novel ones that are not on this list, we could incorporate into the data portal. So some of the most popular ones are the fixed ocean time series and moorings. Other platforms might be some of the new novel sensors that are super interesting, like the Sea Glider, the sail drone. A lot of cool developments going on with remote autonomous sensor technology. We also have seabed cable platforms, the Argo floats, as I mentioned, repeat hydrographies, ship-based time series, and volunteer observing ships. And what types of data are there? That's going to depend on the project. And I think there's something interesting that we could discuss, because the data portal currently does not show this information, although some of it is certainly heavily implied, such as information is going to depend a lot on the type of platform that it is. And the same for the quality, whether it's weather quality, meaning it has a more limited sensitivity to and variability in the sensor, or blue water quality, which is used for the long-term observations, and these are defined in the GOA-ON strategic plan. There's also other types of data, of course, and it definitely merits our consideration. What other kinds of information do you think could be included or located on this portal? Before I get into the ideas, I'm now going to share with you the GOA-ON data portal itself, and we'll take just a quick walkthrough, let you see what the portal looks like then and how it can be navigated. So one moment. Okay, hope you can all see this here. Is this working?
I still see your presentation, Trevor.
Okay, sorry about that. How about right now?
Yeah.
Is that visible?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Katherina. Okay, so this is the portal. It's very fun just to zoom in here and play around, see the different cruises as well as different observation stations. Looking at the layers, you can see the different products, the GLODAP and SOCAP products. The platforms, as I mentioned, different kinds of platforms. And you can go into the filters and look at even assets that already have their data displayed within the portal. And that will just show which assets here. So let's take a look at Hawaii. And it will load up the latest observations that are there in this link, and different parameters as well that you can view. Okay, so this link will tell you which assets have external data that you can access. And you can also see these by different ocean basins, different kinds of platforms, and different variables. Super cool. There's a helpful legend that kind of tells you what the different icons mean, and a regions map as well, so you can go and see the Indian Ocean, for instance, or South Atlantic. And here's the list where you can download all of this information. We also have the survey, and this is the survey you're going to get when you're entering, when you want to add a new platform. It's really easy. As you can see, there's just about 10 questions here. And we, the Secretariat, go through these questions, help put it all into the right format, get back to you with questions if there's something missing or something more that you might be wanting to add but didn't get to add. And there's a separate email to send us track files in the form of KMLs, or if that's not possible, CSV files with the latitude that include the latitude and longitude of the cruise by which the data is collected. Great. So returning to the presentation, let's talk ideas. So here's an image below of some live data that we have displayed. And the live data, of course, is much more involved to get that kind of link. And currently, a lot of our live data links on the portal, if you go to them, are not functioning currently or haven't been updated in a while. So it is a cool way, though, that you can actually see what data the portal, the ACID is collecting and how it looks. Of course, to have live data, you need to have the data quality controlled to have it largely complete with a few gaps, et cetera. And so that takes time to evaluate and might even need some community involvement. But we think it might be interesting to have these to identify what assets would be ready for direct data links and to try and include more of those on the portal if it's something the community wants. Okay. So we can also ask for in the survey different kinds of information. We've been talking about having a secondary point of contact. Right now, the portal in the metadata just shows one point of contact, and the secondary point of contact might be useful, especially when there's turnover or when there's multiple people involved in the project that are that you can reach out to get more information about this platform, especially for platforms that don't have a live data link, and you might want to know something about that project and need to get in contact with that person. We can also have indicators of the data quality, such as the climate and weather, as we mentioned, a quick indicator if the data is continuously being collected or is discrete, and we can add other information to our survey too. So what other information do you think might be interesting to know about a different kinds of OA observations or platforms? So now I'm going to get straight to the questions, and how we're going to do this is in the chat box. You can respond just with simple yes or no, and you can add a quick idea as well if you want to elaborate on that. And then Katherina and I will look at your responses and read some out and look at kind of gauge the feelings in the room. Okay. So first question: should we show plan?
Trevor, I can't hear you anymore. Trevor, are you still there? It seems we have some technical issues on Trevor's end, so I'll try and take over. The first question he has lined up is, should we show planned platforms, so platforms that are not deployed yet? Meaning if you are planning to have a mooring, or if you are planning on setting out on a cruise that will collect data that is relevant, should that be included on the GOA-ON Data Explorer, or would you rather only have access to data streams that are actually live and collecting? The second question lined up here is whether we should mark platforms which are no longer active or collecting data. We have heard in several instances that people were trying to collect data or trying to go through the Data Explorer, clicked on a link, and then were quite disappointed to see that the data was no longer available. So we have been thinking about potentially graying those out. So the conversation we were having was, should we either completely take these off the platform, or should we mark them as this is archived data, this is data that is no longer actively being collected, but you can access data from past cruises or from past years. And then the final question that Trevor has lined up here is, are there new filters that we could add to the data portal, and what are they? So you've seen some of the filters that we have on this GOA-ON Explorer, which are sort of like by mooring type or by ocean basin or these types of things. Would you be interested in adding any new ones? And could you let us know what they are? So I'm seeing that there are some answers in the chat box. Thank you so much. So yes to the first two questions, says Heather Page. Would be helpful for future planning on grants. For example, if someone else is already planning to collect data where you are proposing, or if there's historical data that can be compared to future data. That's a very good point. Thank you for that. It can also help people identify collaborations. That's indeed something we're hoping to achieve with this Explorer, is to have a visual product that helps people find out where data has been collected in the past, where data is currently being collected, and to then maybe facilitate the collaborations in that way. There's another answer here, which I'm very much enjoying, saying yes, no, yes. Wait, hang on, I've lost you. It's also good. Then, oh no, sorry, Ingun. It was no, yes, no. So no to showing planned platforms. Yes to marking platforms which are no longer active, and no to new filters. Interesting. Also very good to know. See that there's a lively discussion happening in the box. Modeling data to be included. Yes, we've thought about that as well. We've not quite figured out how to do that though. So that's a very interesting one. I'll have another.
Hey everyone.
Oh, you're back. Excellent. Do you want to take over again?
I'm sorry. The phone call just cut out. I have to use my phone audio right now, so apologize to everyone. And it's great to see so much feedback on this. For the new filters, I think maybe we don't quite have a full consensus or clear consensus on that. Adding modeling data is interesting. And my question back to you is, for the modeling data, would it be just, say, the scope of the model and a link to the paper or the area where the modeling data is stored? Or should somehow the actual modeling results be displayed like the product of the model, as the SOCAT or GLODAP is? Of course, there's lots of models, and so you also have to think about how do we prioritize different layers of models, because we can't possibly add them all. So yeah, maybe in the chat, if people want to engage with that question that I'm just posed, should the model be spatially just shown its scope of where it is and then a link to the paper, or are you looking for more visualization? Katherina, could you help by reading the responses right now?
Absolutely. Give me a second. So for the questions, ooh, there's a lot of responses. Benjamin says, having planned platforms on a page would be really helpful to coordinate a sampling strategy to support national obligations to SDG 14.3. Thank you very much for that. I agree. And maybe connecting to Oceanobs can make sense, as they have similar strategy for Go Ship. That's a good one. That's a link I don't think we have come across yet. So thank you for that, Benjamin. No to question one. So no to planned platforms. That seems to be a controversial one, whether or not we should show planned platforms.
Yeah.
Those people saying no to question one mind letting us know why they think no to question one. I'd be interested in hearing that. Catherine Alves says yes to the first two questions. Agree with the other answers about grants and collaborators. I think that's a really strong point there. I would tend towards that as well. And I would also think you should keep the inactive platforms available. Excuse me. Would you have them be marked as inactive though? Would that be preferable to you? Because I tend to agree that it makes sense to keep them, to keep the inactive ones. I was just wondering if, as we've heard from people that they were slightly disappointed that, you know, they weren't able to actually access that data anymore, that it might make sense to have them marked slightly differently. But again, I'm still very curious to hear the reasoning from people on why they think we should not show planned platforms. Okay. There's another answer saying yes to the two questions, the first two. Benjamin Pfeil says non-active should be marked as such, otherwise it gives a false impression about the actual network, and I agree with that. It's misleading on the amount of data that we can actually provide if we don't mark them as no longer being active. That makes sense. Yes, there seems to be agreement on that, so we don't go in and expect updated data is definitely a good reason. Oh, I'm sorry, is that, I think Catherine Alves might have responded to the first question there, to not show planned. So if we do show planned platforms and have them also marked as such, if there's like 3 layers of, or 3 different types of platforms, the ones that are planned, the ones that are active and live, and the ones that are no longer active. Not entirely sure how we would do that, but they could have like a little flag or something on them to be able to discern them. Would that be too confusing? Would we be overpopulating the data explorer, or do we think that that might be a way to half elegantly deal with the issue?
I think part of the reason, I guess the reason I would tend to lean towards having them visible in maybe in this flags format, saying it would show you where there's space for collaboration and where there needs to be more observations as well. It also lets people, and it takes a lot of work. It's just some countries to even be able to deploy monitoring on carbon parameters, kind of the work as it's taking place, even if there's no deployment yet, saying, you know, I know there's dozens of planned observation stations in the Eastern Indian Ocean, for instance, on the African coast. And that would be cool. So we can add those fairly easily. So that might be one plus for adding them. I know we also want to get to the SDG 14.3.1. And so I have just one more few questions, and we're going to do this a little bit quicker, just so the audience knows, and then we can circle back to this if we have more time. Does that sound like a good plan?
That sounds good to me, thank you.
So continuing with the questions, what platforms should be on the data portal? We have these limited requirements for having an asset on the portal, like should there be a certain number of carbonate chemistry parameters? For instance, assets that are only collecting information on PCO2 or on different or just on systems. And what is, conversely, you can also respond to what platform should not be on the data portal. Like, is there just oceanographic conditions and nutrients? We don't have those, and I think that's reasonable. So yeah, let us know what platforms should be on the portal, specifically what parameters collected should be on the data portal, and how many. Yes, it's questions.
Trevor, someone asked
Another
the
question, by the way, since we were looking at both.
Sorry. Someone asked the question, is data on West Africa available?
Does that,
no,
I was wondering, would that refer to the SDG? Would that refer to the SDG indicator, and whether we have data there or on the data explorer?
Right.
I'm not quite sure I saw a follow-up on that. Because we do have West Africa data on the
There is.
SDG indicator data explorer, and I encourage you to go onto that website and to use that data search function to search by country. That might be helpful there.
That's good to know. There's also platforms in the Canary Islands on the GOA-ON Data Explorer.
All right.
As far as proactively adding more platforms, so right now we are dependent on you all, the community, to submit platforms to us, and we add them to the portal. However, as the Secretariat are very limited, but if the community shows interest, there's other ways of getting portals by proactively reaching out, perhaps to universities, other ways by reaching out to oceanographic institutions or looking on Pangea. And we just want to know, is this something you think should be a priority in the coming years to try and add lots more platforms to the portal? And if so, where should we look? Any ideas? Ingan Gelvan, sorry if I'm messing up the name a little bit there, says to the previous questions, my reason for no. Sorry, excuse me. I've lost the question, the response. Do you see what I was referring to? There we go.
I'm hearing some interference. Are you still there, Trevor?
I'm still here.
Okay, good. Is somebody trying to? I'm not sure if somebody's trying to speak or if somebody's not muted. There's some background noise happening here. You could also, if you want to ask a question live, you can also raise your hand with a raise your hand question. We can unmute you if you want to actually take part in the discussion verbally and not by writing into the box. That is also an option. So it seems that there's it's been suggested to have a filter if we have platforms that are no longer active on the map and platforms that are planned in addition to the ones that we currently have. And that might actually help to then not have an overpopulated data explorer, but instead to have a data explorer that is a bit more where you can actually actively search for either more historical data that is no longer being actively collected, or where you could look at planned data sets to see if anybody else is planning to collect data in the area that you're interested in the region, and that could help you then reach out to them and collaborate. So is a filter an option that might help with that? I'm just putting that question out there because that has been discussed quite a bit in the question box. I do appreciate all of your input. That's really very interesting. I'm not seeing, so there's an answer from Benjamin Pfeil that the issues about data from other data repositories is a major issue. That is indeed true. There's no link to direct data access to data from the NOAA and CEI, from Sea Data Cloud, Pangea, BODC, etc., as this has to be approved, and data access could be interoperable services, but that will need resources. Other sources would also be Copernicus, eModNet, etc. So that would definitely be an issue. I think in that case it would just definitely be that the Data Explorer links to those data repositories rather than actually actively giving access to the data. I'm hoping I've not misinterpreted Benjamin File's answer there. But that is indeed actually a segue, because that is something that we're hoping to achieve with the SDG 14.3.1 data portal, which is indeed more of a portal. So I think the difference between this, the GOA-ON Data Explorer, is that it's not a repository, as in it does not contain the data per se. It contains links to the original data sources, whereas the SDG 14.3.1 data portal is also a repository. So that is something where you can store your data, where you can submit your data. It can be stored there. It can be accessible there directly. So you don't have to go through another platform to get there. And we've found that this is also a tool, or we're hoping that it can become a tool for those who do not have maybe like the technical capacities to store such large data sets, or where the National Oceanographic Data Centers or other national agencies are not equipped to handle large data sets, such as many of those ocean carbon data sets tend to be. So we're hoping that this SDG 14 data portal can become also a tool for the community, where data can be stored, data can be exchanged. As I said, data is, you can, when you submit your data, choose licenses. You can choose whether it's completely freely accessible to everybody. If you're currently working on data or on a paper that will reference the data that you're submitting towards the national contribution to the SDG 14.3.1, we can embargo your data for a while. So it would feed into the data product that we submit to the United Nations, but it would not be visible or shareable, searchable until you give us the get-go, until you let us know that your paper has been accepted and the data can now be visualized. Also, you can choose to not have your data shared. We highly encourage, for all of the reasons that we've mentioned before, we highly encourage you to submit data that is shareable and openly accessible by everybody, so that you can also get the opportunity, or give the opportunity to people to access the data. Similar vein to what some of the answers were here to the Data Explorer, that it would enable you to see who's already done research in that area, and to maybe see if your data is very different from, or your observations are very different from what's been collected before, whether the rate of change has increased, whether that somebody else has collected maybe other parameters than you have, what methodologies they used, what equipment they used, for example, as well, might be very interesting. And those are all things that you can find on the SDG 14.3.1 data portal, which the Data Explorer from GOA-ON does not provide directly. But what it does directly is it gives you a direct way of showcasing your data. So we'll have the little icons, like the little boats or moorings or anything like that, and it's easy to find the different types of data on that platform. So I hope that kind of explained a little bit what the difference between those two is, and what the overlap between the two is, because both give visibility to your data, to your work. And so we encourage everybody to do that. And we've also heard back from people, both for the Data Explorer and for the SDG Data Portal, that they have used their contribution, or they have mentioned their contribution in future, when they applied for future research grants, for example, saying that, you know, being part of this global effort has given them more visibility, and has also made them more fundable in a way, or made their projects more fundable, because it is data that has been shared, that is visible, that is going towards a global effort to understand and observe ocean acidification data. So there is quite a conversation going on in the chat box now, which I'm very interested in. I'll just read out a few of those, if you don't mind. Heather Page says that she doesn't have an answer to how to add platforms, but thinks it should be done otherwise. otherwise a lot of important work maybe best. Sorry. I know some others, for example, SEA, have been collecting data for years and may be interested in contributing to this effort. Would greatly appreciate if you spread the word about both platforms, about the Explorer and the portal, to anybody you think might be interesting. We're trying to do our best with events like this one to get people to let people know about these, and to let people know that this is a tool for them basically as well, to increase their visibility of their work. And then Katherina Alves, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name, recommends having a search feature and links to metadata to other data portals with the ability to search for regions, type of data, so not just discrete versus continuous, but the actual data and the timescale. That is something that we're implementing with the SDG 14.3.1 data portal, to have more in-depth and more detailed search functions, where we're hoping to have exactly that, and hopefully by the end of the year. And I hope I'm not promising too much here, but that's the plan. And some challenges, she says, are incentivizing the sharing of data by scientists and spreading the word to those who don't know about the data portal. That is very, very true. The incentivizing, I think, is another big question. That's a question I had also for all of you and for the community, is like, how can we incentivize? Because we do know that it's quite often a lot of work and a lot of time spent, or like we're asking researchers to spend another big part of their time on doing this. And the SDG 14.3.1 data portal, as I said, is based on the national contributions. So all IOC member states have agreed that they would provide national data contributions. And this is often either then done, well, by the data managers at national oceanographic data centers and similar agencies, or it is done by the researchers themselves. And when it is done by the researchers themselves, that I think is where we need to find ways to incentivize, to also maybe make it easier for people. And so if you don't mind, I will start showing my questions that I had for you all, because I had a bit of a list as well.
Yes.
And that is a very good segue. I'm glad I was given the opportunity to. Yes?
Just really quickly to mention that for the data portal, the data portal doesn't host data because we're resource limited and it's difficult. And the data portal is an extra step, but it's going to be just a couple minutes of your time potentially, especially you already have the information there. And so that's the SDG portal, being a national data portal, they're very different sort of products and outcomes, even though the submitting is both ocean acidification. That difference for our audience.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a huge difference between these two, and there's a difference between what they can provide and what they can help you with. So there's a difference in you'll have to think about what your data is, and how you want to share it and what you want to share. As I said, it's a national commitment to share data through the SDG portal, whereas the GOA-ON Explorer is voluntary. I mean, the data SDG 14.3.1 is incentivized through this. But what I've been hearing a lot is from researchers who have submitted data towards the SDG 14.3.1 data portal that they would like to be more visible on there as well, because currently it is, as I said, it's Australia, for example, has submitted this data set, Do we think it might be people would be more willing to share their data if, as I have here in that third bullet point, if they were more visible? Would that be an incentive? Because I think there might be a barrier there to people. All right. So Heather Page says people can request the oceanographic cruise data, but we simply don't have the resources, manpower, or money to share data online. I think that is a huge issue that we've come across quite a bit. Is that it is the effort, time-wise, is very substantive, and I completely understand that. That being a hurdle, very much understand. Benjamin File says that the visibility will help support the stations. And I think that is very true. That is something that several of the researchers have told us, that they were very happy to share data, either through the GOA-ON Explorer or the SDG data portal, but that they themselves or their research grants or their research stations themselves would need to become a bit more visible in order for them to be able to also justify having spent this much time and effort on reformatting the data and then resubmitting the data. So if we do give credit where credit is due and make that more visible, would that be helpful? It's looking like that might be a way to go there. So all in all, we are working on, in a way, also to answer Heather's question again, or the issue that she raised about the resources for the SDG 14.3 data portal. We're currently in the process of building or implementing a federated system that will allow us to share data with other data portals and other data repositories. So hopefully soon, if people submit their data, their oceanographic data that is relevant to the SDG indicator to another data portal or another data repository, whether it's their National Oceanographic Data Center or the NCEI, the SOCAD, for example, hopefully in the very near future, we will be able to offer people this possibility of only submitting it once. So you only need to submit to one single data portal, and it will become shared in the whole issue. And that is another thing that, quickly, Ocean Acidification Week is also offering. There's another session tomorrow, another community discussion session tomorrow, where this system and this all of the issues that people are having with sharing oceanographic data and sharing ocean acidification data is being discussed. That's a session that happens tomorrow, I think around 1 o'clock Central European time. Might be slightly confused, but I encourage you, if you are submitting oceanographic data relevant to that contains OA parameters, then please do join that session as well, because we have several representatives of data systems talking there and discussing how to get that. I'm just told it's 12:30 Central European time. Next to the button on my head. So I really encourage you to do that, to join that session as well, because that will also explain how these different data portals and data repositories work together. Is there any more answers? Are there any more topics that people would like to raise? Or are there any more questions? As I said, we'd be very happy to answer all of your questions if you want to send them either to the GOA-ON Secretariat or through the SDG data portal, where the link was also in the chat box. You can contact us at IOC directly if you have any questions on that. And other than that, I think you can use Twitter through the GOA-ON hashtag. I've been told to advertise that.
Definitely.
The hashtag is OA Week 2021. And if you tag GOA-ON, we will see them and we can direct the questions to anybody interested, to the best person to answer the questions, or on the OA Info Exchange, where we will continue this discussion throughout OA Week. So there are no more questions right now and right here. I think we might call it a day.
I think so. Just would be good to say that, as you probably can tell by now, both the SDG 14.3.1 portal and the GOA-ON data portal are continuing to develop, and that's why we're asking these questions to the community, because we want to keep working on these portals and make them a more engaging, rewarding process for you all. And so it's not just for OA Week, but anytime you want to get involved or have ideas to share, please send them our way. You can do so on social media or by email to the Secretariat at GOA-ON.org. And yeah, we appreciate you all being here. I think this has been a fruitful start of the conversation. We'll be taking your responses and saving them, discussing them with other leaders in GOA-ON to, and I'm sure at IOC to continue informing the development of these portals.
Absolutely. And as I said, I highly recommend that data session tomorrow as well, where you'll be hearing more about the efforts that are being made in the ocean carbon community to facilitate this data exchange and to facilitate the data flow. And that is also the title of that session. So with that, I would like to thank you all very much for attending. I would like to thank you all very much for your thoughtful input. And we will leave you, as promised, with a message from the organizing committee of the 5th International Symposium on the Ocean in a High CO2 World, which was supposed to take place this week, but we hope that we will see you all in Peru next year. So thank you all very much, and we hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.